available to everyone. Okay. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's start with our introductions. My name is Bianca. I'm the head of the department here at RemoteNet. Now, RemoteNet is a company that has been designing software institutions or software interventions for institutions, governing bodies on a national as well as an international front. And we actually got the news last week that RemoteNet is also nominated for the Education and Training Awards for 2025. Right, so ladies, gentlemen, you are in excellent hands. Kai, Anton is one of our guests that will be available today. He is a subject matter expert. Just to give you a brief overview, Anton was part of the first team that designed unit standards. And interesting enough, the first unit standard that was ever designed was a unit standard on unit standards. Okay, right. And then we have our industry as well as our accreditation expert guest here today, Darren from Synagos. Absolutely phenomenal to have these two gentlemen in the session, and it is highly appreciated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as a favor, we are going to make these delegates' information, contact information available for you in the chat box. And this webinar, we will be addressing multiple subjects in the training industry. As we are aiming to inform and grow training institutions in South Africa, and we have realized that there is multiple training companies that need guidance, they need help, and we are here to do exactly that. All right. Please make sure that you use the chat box. Or please wait till the Q&A session, as we are going to open up the floor so that everybody gets an opportunity to get clarity on what they need guidance on. Okay. Right, so I'm going to start by introducing our Superman, our honored industry specialist, Anton. What a pleasure to have you with us here today. Before I give the floor over to Anton, just to make sure, Anton is going to address the changes that is taking place in the industry, what this means for you, training providers going forward, and what is the latest on QCTO, CETAs, and skills programs. Anton, can you hear me nice and clear?
Yes, Bianca. I don't think
Lovely.
I look like Superman, but I'll try my best.
Anton, always a pleasure. Thank you for availing yourself for this session. And yes, you are our Superman when it comes to this industry. So you're more than welcome to take it away.
Oh, awesome. Okay, colleagues, what a pleasure is it again just to share some experience, some light in this area. I've prepared something for everyone, and I'm glad that the session is recorded. And please feel free to jump in anytime during my session with you. And then also, if you want to have a copy of this presentation, just shout out to Bianca and then say, listen, I just need to have a copy, and we'll supply it to you in a PowerPoint file so that you can amend it and change it and do whatever you want to do with that. Okay, so let's quickly talk about QCTO, CETAs, and skills programs. And we get so many misconceptualizations, if I can use that word, between training providers, CETAs, and so forth. And Bianca, if I may ask, just look at who's got their hands up and so forth, so that we can address those questions as and where we go. Okay, colleagues, I've actually prepared something. Now I need to get this Superman thing running. Let me just share my screen with you quickly. Bianca, can you see my screen?
Nice and clear, sir.
Awesome. Okay, so I think the first thing that we need to understand is okay, so who's QCTO? And what is QCTO? And why QCTO? And for what purpose QCTO? I mean, the latest buzzwords is QCTO this and QCTO that, and it's just going mad, you know. And then there's a couple of things that says, providers say, I'm staying with a CETA, I'm still running unit standard-based qualifications and those type of things, you know. Then I just sit back and I think to myself, I say, you know, there's a golden rule in life. You can only make informed decisions if you are informed. One cannot make decisions based on assumptions and hearsay and this and that. And my role within RemoteNet is I'm actually a software solutions architect. So what I must do in our company is I must do a huge amount of reading, research, analyzing, verifying, look at legislation, changes to that, so that our solutions that we render into industry meets the needs of changing legislation, conditions, and so forth. I think the first thing that we need to become familiar with is that we're now living in the fourth industrial revolution. And to work with in that area is simply put to say, okay, how do we do it? Where do we do it? Who is supposed to do it? And so forth. If we look at QCTO and we look at, okay, let's then talk about something that we need to first and foremost start to talk the same language. We talk about qualifications, unit standards, skills programs, learnership, and learning programs and learning program qualifications. Do you know that there's even a word like that? And if you do some research in SACWIS framework, you will find that they use the word learning program, but it's actually a learning program qualification. And that's the things that leads to a generic qualification. We talk about the NQF, and colleagues, the NQF does not stand for National Qualifications Framework. It doesn't. It stands for no quick fix. So if you understand the NQF, you will understand what you need to do in your business, meaning training, development, assessors, moderators, facilitators, applying for accreditation, registration, and so forth, national, internationally. Yeah, the NQF, National Qualifications Framework. And you know what, colleagues, SACWA is actually the entity that needs to ensure and administrate the NQF. Not the CETA, not QCTO, not Umalusi, not CHE, it's SACWA. SACWA's main responsibility is to administrate the NQF. Then I came from the era to say, okay, we had registered NQF qualifications that consisted out of unit standards as an example. And in unit standards, you have your fundamental core and elective unit standards, and that's a whole discussion on its own, is to understand the rationale behind the different spheres of skills within that qualification, meaning fundamental core and elective. We now talk about occupational qualifications. And what's the difference? Oh, there's a big difference. So unit standards, a unit standard is classified and defined as the smallest component of a complete skill. It's recognizable. You can take a unit standard from qualification 1, move it to qualification 2 in the same NQF and framework and sub-frameworks, and then they will give you RPL for that. However, on the occupational side, either occupational skills program, part qualification, you can't take a module and move it to another qualification and then claim that you would like to have an RPL on that. The predominant rationale of the occupational side is to ensure that the learner is ready for ISA, the whole process of assessment, formative, summative, the final integrated summative assessment. And we now know, and it's being in place actually since the year 2012, where unit standard-based qualifications, listen to what I'm saying, unit standard-based qualifications are being replaced by occupational-based unit standards. Oh, no one is saying anything. I'm lying to you. No. The legacy qualifications being replaced by occupational qualifications. Unit standards, that's big, we're looking at that, that's going to be phased out, and it's already being phased out. Phased in is our modules and so forth. And we also know that up to quite recently, CETAs were the quality assurance body to mandate and have been mandated to say, okay, we need to honor a specific requirement. And guess what, colleagues? If you look at what the CETA framework is currently in, you will notice that
He's always getting sick in the month of the mother. Right? Yeah. You understand that. Yeah.
Apologies there, Anton. I'm just going to request, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you stay on mute.
Don't stress.
Anton, you can continue.
Okay. So basically what we have is we sit with the CETAs and they've got a lifespan, a license to effectively execute their legislated mandate, and the license is coming to an end on 2030. And guess what? If someone here says, okay, they will get an accreditation at a specific CETA from today 5 years on. Yeah, okay. Then there's a teach-out period for the qualification and unit standards beyond the 5 years. What if the CETAs don't exist anymore? You see, the thing that we need to start to grasp is that QCTO is now coming forward to say we are the entity that's looking at the implementation, that's the development, and all the processes, and right at the end, the certification side of learners for an occupation. And let that sink in a little bit. So what we have is we're now looking at the CETA coming forward and QCTO now becoming the quality assurance body. Again, what was the question? Okay, so who is QCTO and what is QCTO and why QCTO? The big challenge that we have and the problem that we're experiencing is, one, we're sitting with legacy qualifications and 99% of them are not occupational driven. They are qualification driven. Whereas in the occupation and in the OFO codes, the job titles and so forth, occupational qualification, the objective there is to become the way of qualifying people so that the person becomes employable. The CETA used to and was responsible for accrediting providers. Colleagues, if there's a CETA today that says we can accredit you or extend your accreditation, ask that CETA, ask that staff member of that CETA to say according to what regulation and or legislation is that CETA today allowed and give them the manpower and the mandate to accredit a training provider today. Ask them. Ask them the question, and the reason why I'm saying this, nothing against the CETA, it's looking at what does the law say. Because if you get a certificate from, let's say, what CETA? Let's say construction CETA, for explaining this. So let's say I'm going to go to a construction CETA, and I say I would like to become accredited with construction CETA. Let's say I want to be I want to train bricklayers, okay? And construction CETA says, okay, I'm going to give you an accreditation certificate. I will ask that person, okay, what will be written on that certificate? Will it say, according to regulation so and so and so and so, and act so and so and so and so, we hereby accredit you? Ask that question. Registered assessors, certify learners, etc. And that is what we used to, and that's what we know. And that's how we were groomed into the whole NQF process. However, nowadays, the CETA has got a new role as far as quality assurance and quality control relates to. CETAs, and I think some of you would know that, and there's buzzwords, abbreviations, that AQP. So QCTO says, okay, because of construction CETA's experience in the building industry, I'm going to go and get into a partnership agreement with construction CETA, as an example, where construction CETA can be contracted by QCTO to look, verify, moderate, external moderation, do the final quality assurance checks on assessments, learner assessment. That's why even today, you'll find where CETA on discretionary grant or pivotal grant projects will say to you, we need to go or come and verify learner results. They then need to submit that to QCTO for QCTO to act upon. The CETA also, through QCTO, becomes an QAP. In other words, a quality assurance partner. If I want to apply for accreditation as an example of QCTO in the building industry, QCTO will go to construction CETA and say, you know what, I'm going to use your resources, your funding, your money, and your staff. Please go out to RemoteNet's premises. Please go and verify everything they need to have in place so that you, construction CETA, can give me, QCTO, a report. Therefore, me, QCTO, allow for the accreditation of training providers. QCTO also very involved with the accreditation of assessment centers. What's the difference? Well, there's actually a humongous difference. If you look at the building of an occupational qualification, that occupational qualification actually talks about the curriculum, in other words, what the training component needs to address, as well as the assessment document on the qualification, and that actually comes into play. Yes, QCTO needs to certify learners for registered NQF occupational qualifications, part qualifications, and yes, colleagues, in QCTO, if you go to the website, you will find registered, acknowledged occupational skills programs. And QCTO say that, yes, RemoteNet, you can apply to be accredited only for that skills program, and will give you that accreditation. And we know that the last date for learn enrollment is 30 June 20, and it's been extended now, 26. That's next year, June. It's a year from now that learners may no longer thereafter enroll for legacy qualifications. And we'll come to the 1st of July next year. But think about it. The employer discretionary grant applications, if the learner can no longer be enrolled for that legacy qualification, do you really think that the CETA will fund and will get into a contract with providers for training a learner on something that specific CETA is no longer to fund? Interesting. CETA funding expire on learnership, legacy qualifications, CETA skills programs, unit standards. Think about your employer EE plan that you need to compile and start building towards. And now, as of the 1st of July next year, the employer discretionary grant application will have to start focusing on the occupational side, moving away from the legacy side. Then the SETA funding towards occupational qualifications. So SETAs need to start to look at funding occupational qualifications, not legacy qualifications anymore, part qualifications. The registered skills programs, occupational registered skills programs, and then the occupational qualification sub-framework, and so forth. Why? It's because what we already said, your unit standard-based qualifications are qualification-driven. Occupational qualifications are occupational guided. And there's a huge difference between the two. The last date for learner achievement will be 30 June 20, if I'm not mistaken, that's 29 of some of them. What does it mean? It means that between the last date of enrollment to last date of achievement, what's interesting is that we have to understand there is a teach-out period. And then, colleagues, there will be no more accreditations from the SETA, and the STP need to come in play. That is why QCTO comes forward and say, no more. The SETA system is not your LMS training provider. You must have your own learner management system. And what if you have a learner management system that can talk to QCTO and can talk to the various SETAs? Because think about it. There is now a new tender coming out from a SETA that says we want to have a learner management system for 2 years. And whose learner management system is that? Is it yours? No, it's the SETA's system. So you need to have your own system, and then you need to work on a SETA system. So you're going to load the learner twice, 3 times maybe, and you need to update that specific person. Therefore, what's interesting coming forward is that Lucidity address everything that you would need and you want within the LMS environment. Marius, I see your hands up. Just give me a couple of seconds quickly. Okay, making this affordable. We're moving into the area of monthly subscription. And Bianca will talk to you about that. Bianca, this is my story. I hope I didn't kill the time too quickly. And yeah, let's see where we move forward from here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Anton. Marius, to you yourself, as well as all the other delegates, please note that there will be a Q&A session for Anton. So please just hang tight with us. If you guys are anxious in getting your answer, please type it in the chat box for us so we can tend to that. Right, before we head out to our next session, please know that as well, Anton and Darren Adams from Synergos is available in the Q&A session. Make use of that, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, as Anton has then explained, having a LMIS or LMS is a QCTO requirement, right? So Learner Management Information System or Learner Management System. And no, ladies and gentlemen, they are not referring to the SETA systems. Okay. So we have gone above and beyond, and Lucidity is by far the best, the most affordable, and it uploads directly to the QCTO. Just to make sure everybody's on the same page, we have confirmed with Mr. Tepanyekov at the QCTO accreditation domain that yes, every training institution needs to have their own LMIS in place. And ladies and gentlemen, they even go as far as when they are attending their site visit, they are going to ask you to open up that learner management system. Okay. But please do not stress. It is time to take back control. It's time to make your life easier. And it's time to look at this LMIS Lucidity. All right. So please also keep in mind the Learner Management System is nominated for the 2025 Education and Training Awards, and it is a proudly South African product. Thank you for allowing me then to have access. I would love to show everybody what this system looks like, as well as just some of the features. So Lucidity as a management system, LMIS, is then of course cloud-based. All right, that it also has a 2K encrypted. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely safe. It's functional. You can work from any device, anywhere, and it has multiple user profiles depending on the employees and their permissions needed in your company. The first one I want to touch base on is looking at the GUA, the global user. If you have multiple branches, you can structure them. All right, and here is the profiles, employees you are creating for your company, and you can even lock or unlock employees, look at their permissions, who needs to be a facilitator, assessor, administrator. This makes life extremely easy. Okay. And just also to touch some base, so Lucidity actually makes space for your provider details, accreditations, including QCTO, qualifications, skills programs, unit standards, documents. So this is as a Dropbox company, sensitive company information you want to store safely on the cloud, and reports and exports. Now, ladies and gentlemen, by a click of a button, you as a training provider can now generate your statement of results. And it is in the format QCTO is requiring it to be, as well as all the other reports. Ladies and gentlemen, anything and everything you can think of is available. Okay. I'm going to touch base on just some of the features under the administrator profile. And this is, first of all, the dashboard is different. There's more features and functionalities. Even this beautiful feature of QCTO file batches. If you need to create a file batch, right, and this needs to go to QCTO, is this learner enrollment, ISA, readiness, or skills programs and learner enrollments? And it's as easy as touching a button, and Lucidity generates an email for the QCTO, CCs you in that email, and sends through that batch file directly to the QCTO. Right. It also allows you to then capture your assessors, learners, and this is another feature I absolutely adore. If you want to download the statement of results, and this is not for QCTO purposes, stakeholder purposes, this is just for your learners as an example, right? I want you to see what happens. Everything is automated, smooth processes, generates that statement of results, creates your space for signatures, your own watermarks can be added. All right, and everything happens with a touch of a button. So if you have administrators that have been working, you are using printers as an example, everything is now automated, streamlined for you. Another exceptional feature is your courses, right? So Lucidity, this LMIS, actually allows you to generate courses and start taking place, enrolling, and everybody works together. Administrators, facilitators, learners. So let me give you an example just to show you some of these features. When you are designing a course, you can tell Lucidity what course this is going to be. What qualifications will be taking place in this course? Then you can start linking your learners, documents. So this can be anything that you need for this course. Assessment guides, facilitator guides, lesson plans, timetables, any other documents needed. Once uploaded, everybody that has access to course documents will see the same courses. And Lucidity goes as far as to say, you know what? Create a learner portal. So all of your learners will also have the capability of logging in with the OTP and gaining the access to material, whether documents, links, URLs, interfacing with, as an example, Google Classroom. If you need the learner to have access to anything, this is where you can structure it. You can even go as far as to say what you would like the learner to have access when. Okay, just as another beautiful feature of this system, I want to also show you guys. This system creates a portal for the learners where they can then gain their portfolio of evidence. No longer do you have to keep it in files. This system uploads for you or what you need the learner to have as part of their portfolio of evidence. And they can then gain access. It goes as far as you can tell Lucidity, I want them only to download the assignments, logbooks, a certificate. They can decide on an individual basis what they need from their portfolio of evidence. I think this is a phenomenal feature looking at the times where we are headed. Now, I did mention that some of our profiles, as an example, can be locked. So if you have an external facilitator, as an example, right? Once again, the dashboard is different. They only see the courses they are linked to. So if you need a little bit more control in your institution, this system is for you. Right, I'm going to quickly go in as a facilitator. I want you guys to see that the attendance templates is already automatically placed on Lucidity for your facilitator. You can go as far to see, listen, this learner, Natasha, is she ISA ready? How far is she in this course? And preparing the POE or achievements, if you need to update achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you unmute. I do apologize. Right, so you can.
I think, Anka, you're muted.
All right, I do apologize. The minute I select mute all, that will be me included. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you stay on mute. All right, you can update achievements. You can upload any portfolio of related evidence material that you need have for your learners, whether logbooks, assignments, and the learners have access to that information without you printing, without you going above and beyond, flying from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Everybody is geographically then brought together through the system. So that's just some of the features that I wanted to show of this fantastic learner management system. They even have training videos available on how to use the system. They have training interventions every Tuesday on how to use the system. So please, if you guys are like me and technology is not your first language, they are there to guide you accordingly. All right. I just wanted to make sure, Anton will also be guiding me on this. There is monthly amounts available, but when looking at Lucidity as an LMIS, it is the most affordable with the most benefits currently in South Africa. So for the small package, as an example, 0 to 600 learners, that will be 6,179 Rand a year. No joining fees, no admin fees, not paying per learner or per user profile, and you are working. If you need to upgrade throughout the year, you can do so, or if you need to downgrade at the end of a year, you will also be allowed to do so. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is monthly packages also available. Fantastic feature that's coming out is the Sage integration. So Lucidity will also be assisting you in your financial challenges in your company, combining and interfacing all of these role players to make that available for you. Anton, I see your hand is raised. Please, you can.
Oh, thank you very much. Colleagues, I've got something that I need to share with everyone. One is to QCTO is asking, okay, so you have an LMS system and the rules behind the system itself. Do you have a contract with a service provider? Yes. So we supply you with your agreement and your notification letter that you give to QCTO to say, here is my agreement. Therefore meeting that compliancy on QCTO's side. Number two is we are moving towards another realm of subscription, like your cell phone account and so forth, where you've got a cell phone subscription. We're moving the annual subscription that will stay, but we're moving into an annual, a yearly, Anton, a monthly subscription for a year or 2 years or 3 years. It all depends on how you as a client wants to join into Lucidity. So yes, there is an official agreement meeting all the conditions required by QCTO. You have an official letter coming out. and confirming your subscription for that life cycle, a year or 2 years or 3 years. That will definitely give you that heads up to QCTO and then being comfortable. They know about the product, and our family members are sending us their verification reports from QCTO, and man, oh man, oh man, is QCTO excited about what Lucidity supplies. I'm very excited of the future. Thanks, Bianca.
Thank you very much there, Anton. Yes, so yeah, we are very excited about this exceptional system that is made available. Ladies and gentlemen, grab before they raise their prices. I do believe that their prices are extremely competitive within the market. So please, ladies and gentlemen, jump on this opportunity. It's really changing a lot of training providers' ways of doing their work. Right. Without further ado, I would love to introduce our second guest within this session, right? The man of the hour as well, Darren Adams. He's an industry and accreditation expert, right? Please know that Darren and Anton will be available in the Q&A session, just to mention that again. But please put your message or your question into the chat box so we can tend to that a little quicker. Darren will be speaking on the accreditation process, general issues, requirements for successful accreditation, as well as what is the new learning material that everybody has been asking about as well. Do you need any assistance with your accreditation and or learning material? Right, so Darren, thank you very much for joining our session. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. You can take it away, sir.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Everyone can hear me clearly.
Nice and clear from my side there, Darren.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so much for having me today, first of all. And I would like to thank the team at RemoteNet for the incredible work they're doing. I'm here to inform, guys. So I'm going to get started and jump right into the topics I would like to discuss. You know, it's always a daunting task speaking after Mr. Anton Boyser. Very phenomenal man there. We've got minds of knowledge, guys. So everyone in this meeting, I always advise anyone to just go out, ask their questions, because you will be getting the correct information. Perfect. Now, before I do continue, I have been keeping an eye on the chat box, and there was one question that popped out, and I hope I'm not putting anyone on the spot here, and I'm just going to go back to the question. And it said, there we go, it was regarding the shift to QCTO. I believe it was Mr. Nkosi who asked the question. Now, before I do continue, I'd like to just address that. We are currently in that change already. To be very honest, switching over to the QCTO at this point, I would say, is something that needs to be looked at very urgently. And I say this for a few reasons. Of course, Anton mentioned that teach-out periods for qualifications, deadlines on qualifications, that is one of them. But the second important one to manage is the following. Guys, with the QCTO, we are essentially looking to create a more employable future in terms of the training that is provided. So my first point, I am going to reiterate this as well, is of course, guys, let's not kick against the bandwagon, because the bandwagon will leave us behind. Let's all make this shift. Now, to get into the parts I have prepared for you. Guys, I know that there are a lot of misconceptions, miscommunications. There is a lack of knowledge on the entire move over to the QCTO. Fortunately, Anton has covered most of it, but I am going to go over one or two parts with yourselves. And this will be the general issues we are facing in the process, what we are seeing from training providers, and of course from the QCTO side. Now, I do work with Wow, quite a lot of training providers, guys, and there are a few hiccups that we encounter along the way. Now, the first one, guys, if we are looking at our current accreditation, if we are still running under the legacy qualifications with the CETAs, and I know there's today, for instance, the 30th of June, there's a few of them ending. Now, when we look at the QCTO, we can't look at the QCTO as we looked at the CETAs, because with the CETAs, we do our reapplication for our accreditation, and it's a very smooth process. Unfortunately, with the QCTO, there is a lot of due diligence that goes into the process of making sure a training provider is accredited. And this is for a few reasons, of course. And we all know at the end of the day, we want a better future. Now, with that being said, when we're looking at our accreditation process, let's say you have accreditation, you've done this before, you know the process all the way from application to a site visit. For those parties who have not done their accreditation, the QCTO accreditation basically touches on three things. Now we start off with our application, and this is essentially what we are applying to be accredited for. And after that, we have our desktop evaluation, and that in simple terms is just the QCTO vetting everything that they ask from yourselves, from your institution, and going through everything, making sure that it is feasible to give accreditation to, let's say, Synagos Consulting Solutions. Lastly, we will be having a site visit, and this is the crucial part. And unfortunately, it is not a process that happens within a week or two, even a month or two. That is simply not the process. The process can go anywhere from 6 to 9 months and even more. Now, just looking at it from a perspective of a SDP, what does this entail for myself? Okay, I need to now know that I'm moving over to a new governing body, QCTO. We can call it new, for instance. That will mean everything on my side will have to be in order to make sure I align with the standard being set. And that entails my QMS. How does my processes look, for instance? Because with the QCTO, they want to know, after I've accredited this SDP, the quality of training will remain at a standard which we've set. And this is where, unfortunately, we see a lot of our colleagues dropping the ball. And this leads to very, very, very big issues, to be very honest. Just recently, we dealt with a issue of the CETA being the quality partner, but there was a process not properly followed. And that was the enrollment process, for instance. Guys, believe me when I say, the specific training provider who encountered this issue had to rerun an entire 6-month learning program. Now we ask ourselves, how do we avoid these issues? And to be very honest, this is all about information and being surrounded by the correct parties to provide you with that information. And the guys at Lucidity, I hope you don't mind, but I am going to use an example where Lucidity was actually the solution to what I needed. And it was simply a process of making sure processes were followed. And colleagues, I do not work on Lucidity myself, but I have a lot of clients who do use Lucidity. And I know it's a phenomenal system. I know some of the features that it does give to yourselves, of course. But to be very honest, And this is one of the main reasons I enjoy these collaborations with Lucidity, is with this technology we have available. Lucidity essentially communicates information to the QCTO. And had Lucidity been present in a situation where there was a lot of misinformation, we would have been able to resolve these. Now, I'm just going to touch on a few things that we need to, of course, make sure we have a successful accreditation journey, because we want to make sure we do our part and the QCTO does their part in helping us. Now with that, the first point I am going to touch on is a LMS a requirement? Now, I've had a few colleagues call me asking me, listen, Darren, we are in the process of our accreditation. What do we do in regards to the LMIS? Is it really a requirement? Is it needed? And I spoke to one of my colleagues at QCTO, and they confirmed for me within the accreditation domain, it was confirmed that your LMS is a requirement at the end of the day. So that is something I do want to reiterate, colleagues. Then we also look at our QMS, because if we want to set ourselves up for success, we plan this. And what does this, for instance, entail? Our enrollment processes, our learner processes. We look at our small details, but all these details come together in the bigger picture to make everything work together. So I urge each and every one of you colleagues, if you have not looked at the process of switching over to QCTO and haven't done that internal look in saying, am I ready? Do I have an LMS? Do I even have a QMS? Is my learning material up to date? Because something we're noticing within the industry is the quality of learning material deteriorating, which is of course understandable because everything is rinsed and repeated. But I do want to urge yourselves, colleagues, reach out to any of the delegates or the parties involved between RemoteNet and myself. Guys, we have the resources and we are more than willing to share the resources with you. Now at Synergos, we do focus specifically on your accreditation, your growth and your learning material, as well as making sure that your institution is running at the best it can. But with the guide of Lucidity, with the guidance of Lucidity, colleagues, it will take away a lot of the headaches. And with that being said, I'm going over the chat box once again as I'm sharing with yourselves. Just one moment. I see I am breaking up with the sound. Let me see.
We can hear you nice and clear there, Mr. Adams, just to make sure you know. Yes, we can hear you nice and clear.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca. We definitely appreciate that. And with that being said, as I'm going through the questions, what I am seeing is a lot of questions, of course, and I get back to a lot of misinformation. So, colleagues, I do want to urge you, get on the bandwagon with the QCTO. At the end of the day, this only helps yourselves. And should you need any further guidance, should you need guidance in terms of your LMS, how to use your LMS, guys, check out Lucidity. It is absolutely perfect. Should you need any help in terms of your accreditation processes, your learning materials, etc., we are always here to help. My information is also added within the chat box, I believe. And with that, please do reach out to us. But to end off here, colleagues, thank you for allowing me to, Bianca. I do want to reiterate, Lucidity is changing the landscape of LMISs, because what we are looking at is we are looking at a solution to a very real problem and a solution everyone as a whole is benefiting from. So to the guys at RemoteNet, thank you once again. We definitely do appreciate this. To Bianca, to Anton, thank you for the knowledge that you're sharing. We definitely are using it to move forward within the training landscape. Thank you, colleagues.
Darren, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Just to make sure it's nice and clear, ladies and gentlemen, Synergos does absolutely phenomenal work. If you need someone to help you with your accreditation, provide you with learning material, please make use of that number, that email that you are seeing in front of you on the screen. Reach out. They will be there.